In a dark northern city in the late 70s, 5 dreamers built a record label, Factory. 3 classic bands, Joy Division, New Order and Happy Mondays, and Britain's first super club, the Hacienda. Led by local TV personality Tony Wilson, they created a unique collision between conceptual art and street music. This is the story of how Factory pioneered Britain's independent pop culture, imagined a new Manchester, and blew a shed load of money. Manchester, the heart and soul of Factory Records. In the 60s and 70s, a crumbling remnant of the Industrial Revolution, where slums were demolished to make way for bad modern housing and misplaced shopping developments. A great immigrant city in decline.
Somehow the street lights didn't make things lighter, they made things darker. There was no sense that the canal was somewhere that was for living beside. It was rats and drunks and horror, little black seepages. So it had a kind of strange atmosphere that still seemed to be very much from its past, as if we would never escape its past.
If you worked in Manchester, everyone would work in Manchester, so in the day it would be heaving with people. And then at night, it was like rats escaping. It would just empty. And at night, the city would be a ghost town.
The dereliction of the city in the mid-70s, as my LA friend said to me recently, I visited in the 70s too, it was like fucking Detroit, and it was worse than Detroit.
But Manchester didn't have its own indigenous pop music like Detroit's Motown. And the British charts in the mid-70s looked and sounded like this.
Someone say we just haven't got a clue what to do. Does anyone know the way? There's got to be a way to Blockbuster.
In the 70s, popular culture was like Mud, Tiger Feet, and The Sweets, and Gary Glitter. I always say his name on television anymore, and I just find it. To go from the Beatles and the Stones to Motown to that stuff was... That's neat, that's neat, that's neat, that's neat. I really love your Tiger Feet. I really love your Tiger Feet. Your Tiger Feet.
The whole business of pop culture, and particularly music culture, had become so commoditized. It was not really a kind of a touchable experience anymore. There was a Manchester music scene, but it tended to be music that could have come from anywhere in the world. So you've got your Hollies and your 10cc's and your Bee Gees and your Barclay James Harvest. They don't speak in northern accents. They're not singing songs about feces.
With the exception of 10cc, who I thought were great, the rest of it was just absolute dirge. I remember going to the pre-trade hall, you know, just for the sake of seeing bands sometimes, and they just get like 20-minute guitar solos by some really scruffy bloke.
But on the 4th of June 1976, Manchester's Free Trade Hall was invaded by a band from London. They played to a very small audience.
I like to think of like the Big Bang, like the universe. It all starts something about that big, doesn't it? Like absolutely tiny thing goes bang, and it's just the whole universe comes out of that. I mean, your head can't understand that, so why should your head ever bother trying to understand the Sex Pistols gig? It's the same kind of thing. It was our Big Bang. It created our musical universe.
You know, the thing that was interesting is it was set up in the Lesser Free Trade Hall, which was a little theatre, like a lecture theatre. So it had this weird quality of being like a kind of avant-garde lecture, as if Johnny Rotten was lecturing to us. It's, you know, like Darwin, you know, the world has changed. This is what it is now. This is evolution is the truth. The Bible is dead, you know, and so we all believed it.
And we don't care.
Someone else was there that night.
Robert Johnson went to the Crossroads and made a deal with the devil. And only when someone like John gets on stage and is screaming, do you realise it was a great deal. It's worth selling your soul for. It is so powerful. And I went out like everybody else did that night and thought, my world has changed.
Tony Wilson was a local boy made good. He had returned to his native Manchester via Cambridge University and a promising career in TV journalism when he took a job as a film reporter for the city's flagship independent station, Granada, in 1973.
It's certain that the government have for quite a while been thinking that the oil companies are the villains of the piece.
Hi, Tone.
Wilson also had a sense of humour about what he did.
Tony, this is Beverly.
Kamikaze Corner was his big thing, where he would do these stupid stunts.
You want me to run? The fence, the barbed wire fence!
Wilson's real passions were sex, drugs and, most importantly, rock and roll, none of which were being catered for by daytime TV. But when Granada attempted to break the monopoly of the BBC's Top of the Pops and Old Grey Whistle test with a local music show, Wilson grabbed the studio stool.
Good evening and welcome to So It Goes, a or perhaps the new music show.
The Pistols returned to the Free Trade Hall, but this time Manchester's first punk band, the Buzzcocks, played support. Punk was now an official movement, and Tony Wilson was the first to show a television audience what it looked and sounded like.
One of the most reviewed and most reviled rock phenomenon of recent weeks. We got a few votes. Sex Pistols, you can hear them warming up in the background even now. Take it away!
Rock was being born again, both here and in America, and Wilson was discovering his own destiny.
Whenever a band played at Sunday night, Monday night, Wednesday night, whenever and wherever, Tony could always be relied upon to turn up with a Granada cameraman to record this moment, to kind of capture what was going on.
If he went to a gig, people would laugh at him because he would turn up in his Granada TV newsreader clothes with his slightly middle-class hippie haircut.
The only reason I'm doing this is to get my face on more screens, to get my name in more papers and more print, and to expand my fame.
I am the passenger, and I ride through the city's sides. I see the stars come out of the sky. Yeah, the bright and hollow sky. You know, it looks so good tonight.
I give a lot of credit for the 42 bands I put on television for the first time, be it Iggy, be it Blondie, be it whoever. But to my real credit, only I know the 533 bands I didn't put on television. I was right about every single fucking one of them, including the Boomtown Rats. Fuck off.
Wilson wasn't alone. Virtually everyone who was about to become someone in Manchester's post-punk era had seen the Pistols at the Free Trade Hall.
You looked at the Sex Pistols and thought you could do it. Whereas when you looked at Deep Purple, or Led Zeppelin, or Hawkwind, you didn't think you could do it.
People like Morrissey, who didn't particularly like the band, but he saw them play, he just thought he could actually get on stage, it's something he'd always wanted to do. And people like Hooky saw them, and he thought, they can't play, I can actually go and play now. So he went out and bought himself a bass the next day.
For me, it was like being in a darkened room for 21 years and someone showed you a way out.
3 chords, crap singer. There you go, you got a band, you got a song.
There was enough people in that 40 people on the 4th of June to give you The Fall, to give you Buzzcocks, to give you Joy Division, eventually to give you Simply Red, and so on. So it was all in the same place.
The kind of dark genius of Richard Branson ultimately commoditizes it. But for this sort of 18-month, 2-year period, it was like a coup d'etat.
The fact that this cultural explosion that came out of Bromley of all places, that it came up the motorway and took root in Manchester in a way it couldn't have taken root anywhere else, because this was the perfect, dirty, northern industrial town with boredom, ba-dum, and with unemployment. And somehow this became the punk city.
Inspired by the Pistols, Peter Hook and Bernard Sumner had learnt a few chords, poached singer-songwriter Ian Curtis, and hit the Manchester scene as Warsaw.
It was very art school based. It was very middle class as well, and we were working class, and we felt excluded.
We said, oh, the Manchester Mafia, the Manchester Music Mafia will not give us a gig, so we will sulk and stay in our rehearsal room and write songs, and we'll show you, you bastards.
Live transmission.
They rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, and with their third drummer, Stephen Morris, transformed themselves into Joy Division. For the struggling Joy Division, there was something to rehearse for. Two London-based independent record labels, Stiff and Chiswick, announced the Stiff Chiswick Challenge, a talent spotting contest to take place in Manchester. 17 bands performed on one night at a popular local club called Rafters.
I just don't know what to do tonight.
I did notice the DJ at Rafters didn't play requests. You'd go up to him and say, yeah, you got any Patti Smith mates? And he'd say, fuck off.
That man was Rob Gretton. He wasn't going to be a DJ for much longer. Tony Wilson was also at Rafters that night. They both saw Joy Division for the first time. But only after a punch-up about the order of play, when Paul Morley's conceptual punk band The Negatives found itself in conflict with a determined Joy Division.
They drew lots, and it was Joy Division's got the last time, something like 1:30 a.m. or something, you know. And they were panicking, and it's ludicrous. They were panicking.
We're going on before you. No, you're going on one of those nights.
They were so worried about going on last and they'd lose their chance. They tried to sort of get other bands to swap their slot with them, including The Negatives.
It was the band's brooding Ian Curtis who finally lost control.
He just saw them as getting in our way and freaked out, kicked the door off the hinges of their dressing room.
It's quite extraordinary, and they threatened to kill me.
Threatened to stab them or cut their heads off or something like that.
In the end, they went on at about 1:30 a.m. and they were so extraordinary that night because they were so angry, they were so worked up. They were so fucking furious with the whole situation. No one loved them. They hadn't really got a manager. Everyone hated them. And that was the night, in a way, they started to become Joy Division.
Every group I'd seen in that evening had been on stage because they wanted to be in rock and roll. They wanted to be in a band. They wanted to put records out. And this group were on stage because they had no fucking choice. It's if they're driven. They don't even want to be there. It's just, we have to be here because this stuff wants to come out of us.
They were ferocious. And previously we'd seen them, and, you know, Barney had his little spidery moustache and Hooky had his little gay leather cap, you know, and they were a little bit of oddballs, to be honest. And suddenly, Ian, you know, the whole thing, and it clearly needed a kind of fury from within to make the final sense of what they were and who they were.
She's lost control. And she's bringing to the nearest passerby. She's lost control. And she gave away the secrets of the past. She said, I've lost control again. And though the voice had told her when and where to hide, she said, I've lost control again.
Ian used to drink Carlsberg Special. And what's more, warm Carlsberg Special.